Good morning. So, I'm a little tired this morning because about a week and a half ago we got a cat. By the way, it's National Cat Day. So, happy National Cat Day for all you cat lovers out there. So we adopted this cat, and for like 6 months I've wanted this cat, and I did all this research, and I asked my husband, and for like a week I wouldn't talk to him unless it was in like cat terms, like, would you like dinner right meow, or that sounds perfect. Are you kidding me? No one found this amusing but me. Anyway, I'm not going to go too much into the cat thing because I promised my sister I wouldn't make a cat video because she's worried that I'm going to become some crazy cat lady. But I only want one cat. Crazy cat ladies have like 15 cats. I have one cat. But it is National Cat Day, and I feel like my cat knows that because from 12 to 4, I think she was possessed by some kind of demon because she was biting at my face and my toes and any other kind of skin that was exposed. It was fair game. So I'm a little sleepy because my cat is possessed at night, but she's sleeping right now. So go figure. I should, however, pounce on the bed and like scratch at her because that would, make total sense. That sounds like a cat lady thing. Anyway, I'm going to move on before we lose some viewers. So, when I first decided to do this video blog, I was not going to do this kind of video, just because I don't like exposing myself to such a vulnerable state. I'm not one to seek pity or sympathy, so this is not what this video is about. I don't want you to think that I'm an attention seeker and I just want you to feel bad for me, because that's actually the exact opposite that I want you to feel about this video. The reason why I decided to make this video is because a lot of people have the kind of life that I have, but I want a lot of people to know that you don't have to be a product of your situation. You don't have to be the victim if you don't want to be. You can rise above and you can do better for yourself, because at the end of the day, God didn't make robots. He made individuals with unique personalities and interests, and you have a choice every morning when you wake up to be a good person or be a bad person. It doesn't matter who your mom is, who your dad is. It doesn't matter what happened to you. It doesn't matter the experiences that you had. You can be better, and you can rise above those. Anyway, so as a child, I witnessed and experienced a lot of things that no kid or an adult should have to. And I just want someone, if this touches one person, if one person sees this and says, I can do this, and wakes up and makes a better choice for their life, then my job is done. And that's the purpose to this video, is to tell you, you can do better. You don't have to be the victim if you don't want to be the victim. So, my parents were married. My mom was previously married, so she had 2 kids from those previous marriages. My dad and her were very passionate people, very loving people, and with passion, you get really into things, and you just put your whole heart into that. And unfortunately, both of my parents had substance abuse issues, and because of their passion, they were also passionate fighters. And they ended up divorcing when I was very young. I'm not sure the reason behind their divorce, but I do remember the toxic environment that their divorce caused. There was a lot of name-calling. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of just mean things that were said back and forth in front of the kids. And I think the reason why I respect my husband so much is because I don't want my kids to ever see that kind of behavior between 2 adults. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think 2 adults should, hit each other and yell at each other in front of the kids. I think that if you have a disagreement, it can be done with lowered voices, and it can be done in such a manner where there's light at the end of the tunnel and you can get past that issue. Anyway, so they divorced, and I lived with my mom, and I saw my dad on the weekends, and this went on for a couple years. And as the years passed, their substance abuse issues got worse. My dad ended up moving to Tennessee and pursuing a country music career, but he was also a bipolar schizophrenic. And with schizophrenics, they take their medicine until they feel better, and then they stop because they think that they're better, but then their symptoms come back, so it's just a roller coaster. On top of the alcohol, my father just wasn't a pleasant human being to be around, so I didn't see him a whole lot. My mother's substance abuses got worse and worse to the point where we would go hungry. because she would just spend all the money on her substances. She would not pay the rent, so we were homeless a couple times. She wasn't there a lot. I remember there would be weeks and weeks at times that I just wouldn't see my mother. And at 7, I'm not sure how I did this, but at 7 years old, I was getting myself up and going to school every day. I was a very responsible child. I had to grow up very quickly and very fast, and I had to understand that I needed to fend for myself and take care of myself because nobody else was going to. So I remember when I was very young, at night I would go to bed and I would talk out loud to who I now call God, but I would just talk and pray that someone was listening. I would pray for a better way. I'd pray for guidance. I'd pray for the wisdom to get myself out of this kind of situation. And, you know, the Lord was listening to my pleas and my heartache, and He did save me from that despair. My grandparents ended up moving to Tennessee. They were there for about 3 to 4 years, and one summer, my mom put me on a plane to go visit them for the summer, and while I was there, I was a victim of sexual abuse for that whole summer from my uncle. My grandparents did not know, and they did not know until I was 12 to 13 years old because I didn't tell anybody. I did tell my mom, but I do believe when I told her, she wasn't in the right state of mind, and she called my father, who didn't believe me, and no charges were filed. So by the time I did tell my grandparents, nothing really could be done, just because the time that had passed was just, under the law, it was just too much time. So anyway, I did come back to Alaska, and while I was there, my mom was just the worst that I had ever seen her. She was always high. I didn't see my mom sober for a very, very long time, and there was no food in the cupboards. Our house was trashed. And I'm still praying. The Salvation Army knew of our situation and would pick me up on Thursdays and on Sunday mornings, and I would go to church. And my belief in God really got me through that. I'd pray to Him every day, like, I know You're going to save me, and I trust You. When my time is, when that time comes, I know You're going to save me. And He did. My grandparents ended up moving back to Alaska. I'm not sure how they found me because we didn't have a working phone. But one day they just walked through my front door and asked, my mom if they could take me for the weekend. And that weekend they really saw the state of my living conditions, and they went back on that Monday and asked my mother if I could permanently live with them. My mom agreed. They packed all my personal belongings in 2 trash bags and put it on, she took me to Palmer, Alaska. And my grandparents threw those trash bags away, and we started a whole new chapter and a whole new life. As silly as this sounds, it was really hard for me to adjust, just because for so long I was doing my own thing. I didn't have adults being adults. I had my own, I just kind of did my own thing, and eating 3 times a day was difficult because that's just not how, my days would go with my mother. I just wasn't used to it. But my grandparents were my guardian angels, and in my eyes, those are my parents. If I could call them mom and dad, I would, just because the bond that we have, nobody could shake that. My grandparents encouraged me to keep going to church, which I did. They encouraged me to get into extracurricular activities. They kept a very close eye on who I was hanging out with and what I was doing after school. Just because they understood the kind of life that I had led before that, and they wanted to make sure that I had a better start and I wasn't falling into any bad habits that, were hard to break. And they just kept such a watchful eye on me, and I couldn't thank them enough, to be honest with you. I could not thank my grandparents for taking on a responsibility of a troubled preteen and turning their whole lives around and inside out to make sure that I turned out the way that I did. My grandpa was the funniest person. He had these little sayings. He'd say, only on Tuesdays if I ever asked for anything, and it was never on a Tuesday when he'd say this, God forbid. We'd be driving down the road, and he'd wave, and I'd be like, who are you waving to? He had a girlfriend named Matilda, apparently. He spoke many different languages, and he would teach me inappropriate words that my grandma didn't want me saying in different languages. So she'd be like, what are you saying? And I'm like, I'm saying echidna. It's mushroom. Hello. And she's like, stop cussing. And I'm like, it's a mushroom in Japanese. My grandma, God bless her, she's just such a warm, giving person. Like, she'll give you the shirt off her back if she could, and if you needed it. She was my best friend. My favorite memories of her is we always had, and it was, if one of them broke, we just got a new one. She always had this big red recliner in the corner of our living room, and that was her chair. And I didn't matter how big I got and what my age was. If I was having a bad day, a good day, I wanted to share something with her, I'd climb up on her lap and I would sit there for hours and I would tell her about my day or my sorrows or my heartbreak. And we sit there and then we'd go shoe shopping, and that was just like our thing. And my grandpa would always be like, do I need to take a heart pill before you guys go to Payless? Like, my grandparents gave me a shot at a childhood, and from 12 on, I had a great childhood. They made sure that I was doing what I needed to be doing, but then they also gave me memories that I could cherish and just kind of have like a second chance. And I couldn't be more grateful for my grandparents. I did end up joining the Air Force, and my grandfather did pass away, natural causes, 3 years into my term. And it was really hard for me, just because in the 8th grade, I'd lost my father. That was very sudden and unexpected, just because my father was in his 40s, his early 40s. He wasn't old at all. And but I do remember 2 weeks before his passing, he called me, and my father had schizophrenia. And if you don't know what that disease does to you, you see things, and they're very frightening things. You could see demons, you can see yourself on fire, you can see nightmares living, and you think that they're real because that's what you're not sleeping, you're living a living nightmare unless you're taking your medication. And the thing with my father, he would take his medication and then he would feel better, so he felt like, his symptoms weren't there, so he'd stop taking his medication and the symptoms would come back. So it was just a constant roller coaster. And he was also bipolar, and then his alcoholism just made it so worse. So 2 weeks before his passing, he called me and he was explaining to me that the people in his walls were trying to steal his music. And at 14, I just didn't understand that. Like, I felt bad. I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know what to say. And my grandparents, took the phone, and, my grandma's like, he's just very sick, Veronica. You just need to pray for him. And that's what I did. And that night I did pray to the Lord. I said, Lord, I won't be mad at you if you take my dad. Like, I understand the situation that he's in, and I understand his sickness, and I don't feel like it's going to get better. And I prayed that, if you feel the need that you need to take him, I'm okay. I'll be okay. And 2 weeks later, on Christmas Day, my father had a Grimal seizure, and he was alone, and he didn't make it. I was very upset. I was a daddy's girl. In the last visit that we had, he was sober that whole time, and those 2 weeks over Christmas were just one of the best memories I've had of him. He was a great dad. He loved me. He loved my brother, and he was very protective over us. And but I do feel like he's in a better place. I miss him, but I know that he's proud of the person that I've become. I know he knows who my kids are, and I know that he knows, what I'm doing with my life. I know that he can, he's around me, and I sense that. And because of that, I feel like he's just in a better place. Like, some of you may disagree with me that I prayed for my father to be taken, but you have to understand the kind of sickness that he was in, and you have to understand the kind of damage that he was doing to himself. That's not fair. That's not fair to anybody, for him to keep going on like that. And if there's no light at that tunnel, like, how can you wish that upon somebody? I wanted my dad to feel better, and he wasn't going to be better on earth. So the Lord took him, and I know that he's with my grandfather, and he's with my Aunt Veronica, and he's in a better place. And that's what I wanted from my dad, was to be happy, and I know that he's happy. Do I feel bad that my kids won't meet, my dad? I do, but they're going to know about him. They're going to hear about him, and they're going to hear his stories. And my husband's parents are incredible grandparents, so they're not going to be without grandparents. My mother-in-law and father-in-law, we call them Mimi and Papa, and they are God's gift to me for enduring everything that I've had to endure. I'll do it all over the same way if I get the end result with my in-laws. They are just amazing people. My father-in-law's a preacher. He's a incredible man of God, and he's someone I can always seek wisdom with, and he's honest, and he'll tell you, this is how it is, and whether or not you want to hear that or not, it's sometimes what you need to hear. And my mother-in-law, I'm pretty sure she's superwoman, but she hasn't told us that yet, because I feel like that would, give away her secret identity, but I'm going to find a cape one day. I'm out for you. I'm looking for that cape. She's had 8 kids, and she's still a 10. She looks friggin' amazing for having 8 kids. Like, people joke around like, are you going to have 8 kids? I'm like, I'm not going to look like that after 8 kids, so no, I'm not having 8 kids. She found the holy water youth, whatever. She found it because she looks amazing. And it's not just about her looks either. She's just such an amazing mother. She's the example that I look up to of what kind of mother I want to be in the future and right now. When I wake up and I'm having a bad day, Sophie didn't sleep, Nathaniel's pooping in the bathtub, he's not listening to me, I look to my mother-in-law, who has more patience and more just giving of herself than anyone that I know. And I'm like, you know what? I find my strength in you, and I can do this. I have 2 kids. You have 8 kids. She also nannies like 4 kids. So on a daily basis, she has like 12 to 13 kids hanging on her freaking pant leg, and she still finds the time to text me, have a good day, Veronica. Okay, so I have nothing to complain about that my cat becomes Satan between midnight and 4 a.m. You still don't sleep through the night. So you know what? I don't need sleep either. What sleep? But anyway, so if I knew that this was going to be my end result, I'm going to do it all over the same way. But that was my choice. I woke up every morning with my grandparents, determined not to be a victim of my own childhood. And I feel like everybody has that choice. I understand that we're not all given the same cards in life, and I understand that some may have it harder than I am. But when you're an adult, or when you're a young adult and you have your own life and that you can make your own choices, you can make that choice to be a better person. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that if you give yourself to the Lord's going to work wonders in your life. And he did that for me. I'm a standing witness before you saying, hey, I was a victim of abuse. I was a victim of poverty. I was a victim of sexual abuse. But guess what? I made it out. And I made it out great. I have an incredible husband who I pinch myself every morning that he's mine. I have 2 kids that are just so precious and so beautiful. I have a life. I have a home to call my own. I have food in the cupboards. I have clothes in my closet. I have a cat. I have a freaking cat on National Cat Day. It's so reachable as long as you put your mind to it. It sounds so cliche and cheesy, but honestly, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And super cheesy. Come on, bear with me, people. 0 sleep. Second cup of coffee. Cat Day. But I just don't do well with people who have this excuse saying, I just had a really bad childhood, so that's why I am an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. Do I enjoy the occasional glass of wine with my husband over dinner when the kids are sleeping? I do. Do I abuse alcohol because my father abused alcohol? I don't. I feel like there's healthier alternatives that you can turn to instead of drugs and alcohol and toxic behavior. And if you feel like you're fighting those kind of urges, I encourage you to find a church, or I encourage you to find someone that you feel comfortable and confident in talking to about those issues, and get the help that you need, because you can be a better person, and that day can start today for you. You just have to make that mental choice. You have to give yourself that chance. Everybody has that chance to be a good person, and I believe that anybody can reach that. Whether you become a good person after that first morning cup of coffee like myself. Morning rule, don't talk to me until at least half of this cup is gone. Or if you're blessed enough to just wake up with wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, you can do it. And this video is for that. But anyway, I hope that you take away from this video a little bit more about myself. I hope that you don't feel like I made this to kind of have you feel bad for me, because that's not what I want. I don't want you to feel bad for me, because I don't feel bad for me. I don't feel that my life was this terrible thing that I just couldn't escape, because I did. I made a better life. I want you to take away from this video that no matter what circumstance or life or decisions that were made for you in the past, it does not have to be the defining factor for your future. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to drink the rest of my cup of coffee, and I'm going to celebrate Happy National Cat Day. So, yeah.